There it is. Yep. And that one is through Zoom. Evidently, you need thousands of followers on YouTube to go live, or just pay Zoom and they'll let you do it as part of the deal. So we're cool with that as well. Thank you to the Rejuvenate Studio, because they Jovi pays for her Zoom calls because they go more than 40 minutes. We'll just put it that way.
Yep.
And then the last thing we do, our main target, is the face baggers, and they are next. And then once we do that, we'll kind of do our start. Bobby's in the waiting room. Did he leave again? Bobby, how many machines are you trying to log in here? He's gone again. All right, we'll let him in. Should be looking at 3 of us. There we go. There we go. We'll see if Bobby's back. We'll say hello to the YouTubers. And I should have known Dave would be wearing his 3 feet, stay away from me on my bicycle t-shirts. Yeah, there you go.
You got it. You got it.
Do you know the name Lyle Newson?
Lyle Newson?
Yeah, do you know that name?
Is that from your side?
Yeah.
I think I do remember it. Long time ago.
Yeah, I think we bumped into each other playing a match either against each other or with each other.
Right.
I met him first as a teaching pro at TPC, but he actually was on his bike, got hit by a car, ended up 6 months learning to walk again. I mean, he went through the whole thing, happy he survived kind of scenario.
Yep.
But that is for a podcast of another time. And Bobby, what we'll do for you with your video is I'll just stick a good looking picture of you right there where you should be.
All right.
I'm gonna use AI, and I'm gonna have that mouth thing going.
That's right.
We're gonna superimpose the baby mouth right on top of your No, I don't end up doing that. So we will transition sound and audio if everybody's ready to go. Looks good. And as you figured out, Dave, we have a slow start. We like to do some technicals and chat and say hello, and then I'll do our little hey, this is Hey, we're the Monkeys introduction. Just realized where that came from.
Yep.
That's a long time ago. And we'll chat for a while. I'm gonna start with your USTA official firearm story. So I'm jumping right in with that. So get ready to tell that one as big as you want.
Okay.
And then we'll ask about the academy. I'll do my full disclosure that you and I have known each other a very long time.
Sure.
Back when I was young and stupid, as opposed to now when I'm just old and stupid. So.
Old, and I'm old and stupider.
Well, that's the other thing. We need to figure out how to get you. We're going to do a follow-up for the 10 minutes of tennis that we did with Justin. We're going to do a follow-up on what to change over 60. And we'll bring you into that as well, because I know Justin could use a little extra. Hey, by the way, 40 is one thing. Justin just turned 50. And you can say, okay, well, after 60, if you actually still want to be good at tennis, I don't know how many ice baths I've seen a picture of you in, but taking care of your body is a lot.
It's a lot. It is a lot.
It is a lot. So I got a transition of video onto Facebook. We are audio onto Facebook as well, and we are good to go. And Dave, we will crop out any F-bombs or anything that needs to happen that
I can clean myself up.
Put out on the audio. So we do our best. We don't interrupt too much, but we are tennis guys and we all do like to talk. So there's a little bit of that. But I will say hello to everybody on Instagram, which I already have, everybody on YouTube and Facebook. We are now live there. And I now have a loop on myself for some reason. Why do I have that? Let me double check that. Hang on 1 second. I had myself a double. There we go. Last thing we need is 2 Shauns. That's probably too much for this world. Don't worry, baby G. You're not an actual Shaun. You're just half a Shaun. My wife and son are in the office. He's sleeping, so we'll see how long he lasts sleeping as we do this. But all right, I think we're good this time. So I will say hello. I am Shaun Boyce with Gotennis and the Atlanta Tennis Podcast. I'm here as always, or as usually, with Bobby Schindler. Today we have Dave Matthews. And as anybody asks, no, not that Dave Matthews, the actual Dave Matthews of Dave Matthews Tennis Academy. And I will start with full disclosure. Dave has known me since I was about 14, 15. When do you think it was that I joined your academy and 19.
Yeah, no, yeah, it's about 14, 15, somewhere along in there. Yeah.
And I was there with a few other guys we still know in town. So the Dave Matthews Tennis Academy has been around quite a while. So you've got some experience with running an academy, getting some kids like me. It's actually a testament to your coaching that someone wanted me to play on their college tennis team. So that definitely says a lot. But I want to start because you're also a USTA official, and that's one of the things we haven't talked about on the podcast at all at this point. We've been doing this a few years now, and we haven't had any questions that lead to, oh my gosh, that guy might be going to get a gun. So jumping right in, you have a story. I have it on good authority that you have a story where you're pretty sure it got bad enough at a USTA. Let me point this out. Children's sporting event that you think things were going to escalate. I have got to hear this story.
Yeah, it was a junior tennis tournament, like I've taken you to and all the academy kids to. And, generally I'll take, back in the old days, I would take kids there in a van and things like that. Now with lawsuits and all that, you kind of avoid that. You show up and you find the kids there and watch them play. And, and that's as good as you can do right now. So, I'm now a USTA official. I officiate the tournaments that we help run up at the facility I work at. Me and another gentleman who is also a USTA, not only official, but he also operates, does the draws and all that in the background before the tournament ever starts. So he's about as qualified as you can get. I bring more of the player standpoint into it, being an ex-player and coach and all that. So between us both, we've pretty much seen about everything you can see. And there was this one tournament. It was several years ago. Thank goodness it's kind of hopefully, gotten out of the way. But we're sitting there, and the canopy we sit under is up on the hill, so we can see all 12 courts. We time all the warm-ups and everything. Everybody gets, we know it's a 5-minute warm-up, but we sometimes, depending on draws and stuff, give them a little more time. And so there's this one court right there next to where we are. And I looked up, and, the bad part about that court is that there are some canopies with picnic tables right there beside it. And, some of the parents will sit over there up under the canopies. And, when the kid's on the other end, they'll chit-chat to them and things like that, which is a no-no. We don't want any interference. We would rather the kids get us, and we tell them right there at the check-in desk, which is right next door to us, if you have a problem, here's two officials in blue USGA official, shirts. Come and get us. We'll come and help you settle it. We would rather do that and let the kids learn how to deal with each other and settle it on their own than to, have outside interferences and then parents getting into it and things like that. So this parent, had been chit-chatting a little bit, and, we'll sometimes we can't decipher between what is somebody saying, oh, great shot, or clapping and things like that. So, we're not trying to listen to your every word, but this one kind of escalated a little bit. And, we can kind of see when other parents are getting a little irritated by the infection or injection of another parent. And it was kind of getting a little, it was about time to stop it. So, I stood up and took about 4 or 5 steps toward the canopies, which then at that point in time were only about 10 feet away. And I said, excuse me, sir, please back away from the fence. You don't need to be talking to your son while he's playing, blah, 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 blah. And, if the kids have a problem, tell them to come get me. And he looked at me and, literally was,
apologetic. I'm sure it's completely apologetic. I'm sorry.
No. Went from 0 to 60 in about 0.2 seconds. He looked at me, and they've got this. It's kind of interesting to watch society now, because they don't go into I don't want to say an apologetic mode, but at least I didn't know. something like that, it's like a defensive mode now. It's like, oh, you're going to blame me. And, is there any economic or racial or anything they can pull on to get in my face? And that's exactly where he went. And the gentleman, the other official was right behind me. And because, we've been doing this long enough to where we can see a situation. And if it doesn't look good, we both are coming. And, he's about 5 seconds, 5 steps behind me. And the gentleman just looked at me and he came up and got, tried to get in my face. Luckily, like most people, they're a little bit shorter, which is okay. But, I think some people are, I don't want to say intimidated, but I am what I am. And, my voice carries, and you know that as well as anybody. And,
well, for the listeners, sorry to interrupt. For the listeners, you're about 6'6". Is that about
6'5", 6'6"? Yeah, 6'5", 6'6".
So you walk up, even as pleasant as you can possibly be, you're still an intimidating presence.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I just am what I am, And so, we get over there, and this gentleman just kept going back at me. And I just said, sir, if we can't calm you down, because the kids now are trying, they're disrupted. There's court 5, 6, 7, and 8. Probably 2 or 3 of those are disrupted. And we're just basically trying to say, sir, let's just go over here under the 10 and get you away from the court. Let the kids keep playing. My partner can take care of the kids and get them started back. And, we've only got 100 matches to play on 12 courts, which is, if you ain't, that's easy math. 10 blocks of, 12 courts at a time. You're there for 12, 14 hours. So we're trying to keep our day rolling along. And so he just looked at us and he goes, well, if you keep this up, I think I'm just going to have to go to my car. And I'm looking at him like, and well, you're going to drive away? Or I mean, I'm from the street. I know what happens when that happens. And I looked at my partner. My partner's looking at me. I'm like, whoa, I never heard that one before. And I just looked at my partner, and he was like, let's just let him leave, and we'll call the city police or the marshal that comes through this area, and just tell him, we may have a little bit of a situation. Just be on guard. La 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 la. Well, luckily, we tell the parents, listen, we want you to stay, but if you're going to keep disrupting the match, we got to get you out of here. Whether you go sit in the car, turn on the AC, fine. Or if you leave and come back, you got cell phones and stuff. You can call your kid, tell them you're coming to pick them up, or they can call you, say, come pick me up, I'm done. But you got to let the matches continue. And, at that point, this gentleman was really in my face. And I was, everybody around was going, wow, this dude has lost his mind. And it shocked me. Shaun, I mean, it just shocked me to think the parents of the kids like you guys, when you came through, my parents would never show up and say, they knew that if Shaun Boyce got in trouble, if Dave was there, Dave was going to make sure he has a level playing field and everything else takes care of itself. But in this day and time, it's like the parents won't let the kids play and learn how to get along with each other and get, solve your problems. Tennis is like now not even the main not the main thing on the table. So yeah.
And Bobby, I'm sure you're completely shocked by this parent behavior.
I want to know his name.
Well,
I'm got a few guesses.
We're all sure we met this guy, right?
Well, and the sad part is, I would like to think, sadly, it don't happen. You would think that a governing body, whether it's USTA, UTR, whatever, these people need to be up there going, okay, we got a list of people that are problematic. If it continues to happen, they got to get gone. You're going to ruin a good game, a good program, whoever's it is, it doesn't matter. These people, and they will ruin it in a heartbeat to think their kid is innocent. And, you know what happens to kids that are led to do, by parents that do this, you get the same thing coming up as a younger adult later. And that's a whole nother game I don't want to see.
That's an interesting thought. So as a USTA official, do you think that's something the USTA could do is create kind of a list where you can walk out. I don't know, soccer, with your yellow card and your red card, but I assume you have the authority to remove someone from a tournament premises. But it would be interesting to have an ongoing list where parents at some point say, hey, you know what, little Johnny, love to have you at your tournament, by the way, but your father's not allowed here, or your mother's not. You think that's possibly able to be created? Or do I don't know.
It kind of is looks like it's gonna have to happen, because society ain't getting better. There's several areas of our not livelihoods, but just several areas of life itself where it's gotten to be the wild, wild west. It's almost like, you drive a bigger car, you can get away with everything, but you can't. And you shouldn't be able to. You should be adhering to the laws of the road so that everybody gets safer. But it don't get that. It ain't that way. It's gotten out of control. And this is the same thing. People are getting away with it, and nobody wants to step up and say, I'm sorry, you're wrong. You're bad for the program. You need to go find something else because we ain't letting you in. But people are so scared that those people are going to start hollering that they let them get away with it. And to me, that's wrong. You're letting the good people get badly affected by the bad people. And there's a minority of them out there. But when they start, what's the old cliche now is, if you holler louder, you get more attention and you get away with more. That's bullcrap. I'm almost to the point now where I think looking at your entourage, I've watched US Open and all these people are turning it, I like that. I'm like, I never did that. I turned around, understood there's another point to go. Let's get over there and let's keep the trend going. I don't want to ruffle your feathers by doing that. I don't want to let you know I'm not happy if I don't do it. I want to keep coming at you 110% every point to win every point. And if I use that energy, that's energy I could have used to run down an extra ball or two a few points later, because it adds up. I see these guys. I'm sitting here watching Isner and Mo right now on my TV up here in my office, and I see them doing that like every point. I'm like, good God, your emotions have just got to be spent. And in a 3 out of 5 set match, I don't know if I got that much energy.
Yeah, staying positive is one thing, but that whole I have to be overly energetic, and I don't coach at the ATP level, so I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing. I've got my thoughts on could be a waste of energy, but I like that positivity. I wonder at some point, though, from a tennis point of view and the kids, we end up punishing the kids because your dad's a jerk. And I use, I guess, dad. Maybe it's more often than not the males, because 80% is probably how that usually plays out psychologically as to who that is. But I appreciate you starting with that, because I know we haven't talked much USTA tournament-wise. Right. And now I want to go back. So I want to take a step back. Can you tell the listeners, tell everybody who you are? You started, if I have my numbers right, you started Dave Matthews Tennis Academy in mid to late 80s, 87, somewhere around there, which means you met me in 90-something. And in that case, you were also a player. You're in the Hall of Fame somewhere. Give us a little bit of who is Dave Matthews.
I like that somewhere. I started my junior tennis academy. Actually, I started it in Denver, Colorado, where I lived at the time. I worked at a nice little club there. Had about 15 kids, traveled around to the Intermountain Region tournaments and stuff like that. My oldest player that I have right now he's got to be getting near 50. That's pretty bad. I was 25 or 6 and he was 14. So I'm only 10, 11 years older than him. So he lives in Phoenix, Arizona. But then I moved to Atlanta in 86, started the DMTA, which is that logo right there. Started that in 89, and then, got you, John, Jeffrey, Danny, a whole bunch of them came in there over at Circle Stone and then at Hidden Hills. So basically then while that was happening, I was also playing national, international events. Started playing nationals when I came off the satellite circuit in 89, started the 30 and over division in seniors, and won, I don't know, half a dozen or a dozen or so, a little bit less than a dozen national titles. Represented the USA a couple of times on the senior Davis Cup teams. Did win a world title in South Africa in '05. So, met my friend Guy Fritz, whose son is doing pretty good right now on the Pro Tour.
That's right. We first heard about Taylor Fritz from you because you had the friend who had a kid who was supposedly pretty good.
Yeah, he's pretty good. Yeah. He's actually now in the third round of the Open now, so he's doing pretty good. But that's, the sum of the nutshell. I did get inducted in the Georgia Tennis Hall of Fame in 2013. And that was an honor, that represented all of my kids and the family, DMTA family, because no matter who was hitting with me or whatever, everybody had part of it. It wasn't just me. That's such a facade. There's so many parts to that puzzle. It's crazy, but I'm very thankful, and luckily a little bit of my talent and hard work, with all the belief and from all my players and stuff, and hopefully I transform some of that into some of y'all. You're doing pretty darn well and working hard, got a good family, and that's what life's about.
It really is. And that was one of the things you talked about a lot when I was a kid. And it sounds like you're the same way, where you say you get to know the kids inside and out, and you really say, hey, look, maybe I'm not the greatest tennis coach in the world. I don't know who is, but I'm as good as I can possibly be. And in that case, if you like what I have to offer, it's more than just the tennis. My mother still quotes you from when I was a kid. And it's just things that stick with you. And I as a coach, and I know Bobby's cognizant of how he speaks to kids as well. When it's adults, you can kind of loosen up a little bit. But when we talk to kids, we're cognizant of how we speak to them and the things that we say. I remember being a young coach and kind of a little more off the cuff and a little more I can say whatever I want, as opposed to realizing how much we affect these kids. And
Absolutely.
The things, so many of our rules, my family life rules we have are worded the way they are so they can scale. I want to be able to follow the same rules, or most of the same rules, as the 5-year-old that we talk to and say, hey, here's rule number 1. I follow the same rule, as opposed to having different rules for kids and adults. But being that role model makes a huge difference. And that's hard to do over 30, 35 years and stay consistent. So I don't mean to downplay and say Hall of Fame somewhere. I know you've got Alabama ties and Colorado ties. So I went through and checked it all out, but I wasn't sure how many of those you have. I didn't know you won a world title. That's really cool.
That was a very, very, I knew those guys like I said, I've been playing on the senior tour for 15 years. Mike Federle, Val Wilder, who's in Dallas, and Federle's in Palm Springs, and Egan Adams, who's in Florida. We were the 4 that got selected to go, and went down to South Africa. It was a great trip, took my whole family and just had a blast. And won the world title, the world team title down there. And it was an awesome feeling to represent the U.S. And it was a very good trip for culture reasons to experience that. We did get to go on a half-day safari. It's kind of neat. The trophy that we got is not that big, but it's a glass, and etched in the back of the glass are the big 5 animals, the rhinoceros, oh my God, it's unbelievable. That's so, cool. People look at my national titles and then they see that little glass thing and they're like, oh, what is that? And I'm like, that's my world title. And look in the glass and they're like, oh my God, that's the elephant and the rhinoceros and the lion. I'm like, yeah, the big 5. And it's very unique trophy, but it definitely my highest, honor for sure.
That's a cool story. And it reminds me of how good of a player you were in my memory, even as a kid, thinking I was good and just being tortured by you as though I was nothing. And I have to play against 7-year-olds to feel that good. So you being able to do that to upcoming college players is a nice feature to be able to say, oh, you know what? Yeah, you're pretty good. All right, watch this. All right, go run that down and be able to torture. Right. I remember all that. But it makes me wonder now, because like I said in the pre-stream, that I don't know if you and Bobby had ever been in the same room at the same time. I'm sure Bobby's brain, Bobby, your brain's got to be running if you guys know any of the same people.
Well, my first question, Dave, and you can pass on this one, but do you take responsibility for Shaun's forehand?
I'd like to take responsibility for his two-handed backhand because he's got a pretty dang good one.
That's not the question I asked.
You notice how I scooted on by that one. Shaun had a good game, and we knew what to exploit and what to stay away from, and that was the beauty of coaching and having kids at that group that I had back then. You talk about some very acute listeners, man. They were on everything that I said, and they, most of them learned very well and went on to play some pretty good tennis, and I was very proud of them all.
Well, I mean, you look at that age group, Shaun, you're close to Ricky Bowers, right? Did you ever play Ricky? Or
I feel like I should know that name. I can't play.
Well, his dad is he would have been one of the ones that you might have met up with later in life because his dad is a big corporate developer. But Ricky played, Spencer Reed. They're probably all just a little older than you. Jonathan Freilic's a little bit older.
Couple of years.
You were in a pretty hotbed for Georgia tennis during that time, that time period.
Well, yeah, we were losing to the 10-year-olds in John Williams. And the problem is we were 16 getting smoked by the 10-year-olds. So we knew we weren't going too far in tennis.
Yeah. Well, I do know that feeling. I always used to say I didn't need to play tournaments. I was 17th in my club. So I didn't need to go out to lose any place. I was quite easily losing right at home. So I didn't have to travel. Now, Dave, I am surprised. I'm like, especially you're over in the neck of the woods. Did you ever know Dennis Horde?
Dennis Horde? No, I don't. Not off the top of my head, no.
Because Dennis, he's a little older than you, but he was kind of like my mentor, and he was over at Swanee Station, Old Town in Duluth. He was brought down by Ralston Gorman back in the early 90s to run their academy behind Lenox Park. Yep. And that's how I got back into tennis. Meeting him and Billy Pate got me back going. And but you two outside of the accent, which I knew you weren't from Colorado. So no. I was leaning toward Alabama or Georgia Hall of Fame just from the way you sounded. But just curious who you run up. And I think we've met. I'm looking, but I'll tell you what, you look like my father-in-law. You look like Stuart Russell. I think we get to a certain age where
we all start looking alike.
Wear the glasses, we all start looking alike. I'm 58 or about to turn 58, and I got Stuart Russell by 2 weeks, so he's right around our age. So
yeah, I'm a little bit older than that, but not too much. Thank goodness. But I know Billy Pate. Where is he? He worked at Notre Dame for a little while, or
Notre Dame, went to Alabama. Now he's at Princeton.
That's what I thought. Yep. I see him on Facebook every now and then. Yeah,
we went to grad school together, and he's the person that got me back into tennis. So, like I said, there's not many people you can point to and say he changed my life. He changed my life.
Right. Well, that's a good thing.
And you remind me of my old coach was King Van Ostrand. I don't know if you ever met King in your travels, but he was the same way. Now, again, a lot older, but he's been literally like number 2 in the country since he was in the 40s. And his son was John, who Mary Carrillo speaks of, and his daughter Molly played and made it to quarterfinals of Wimbledon. Great player, one of the first two-handers on both sides. But she just had a lot of – but same thing, love. And he's still alive, God bless him, in his 90s, and I still think he's playing tournaments.
That wouldn't shock me. Yeah,
him and Hugh Thompson. They're the only 2 guys left, right?
Yeah, you and his all whites.
Yep, I played Hugh a couple times. He's a few years older than me, but we played back when they did the K-Swiss thing, and me and Hugh played right over at the old Olympic Tennis Center a couple times. First time they put us out on that center court. And I was like, oh, this is going to be a great novelty. And then we go out there, and after about 2 games, I looked at Hugh, and I went, I don't know, homie. I think I hate this court. And he goes, why? I said, because if I put the ball on the back wall, it's about 60 feet to the back wall. It's only 39 feet to the net. And he goes, yeah, you got that right, mate. And I said, yeah, I'm going to put this extra ball in the net. Either one of us can get it. He started laughing. So the next year, we played in the finals again, and they said, oh, we're going to put you on the center court. I said, no, you're not. And he went, no, you're not. We're going over here right behind the pro shop. We're going to play right here on this sunken court, and this will be fine. And so, it's just the funniest thing. But, hey, we were just trying to make a match simple, Oh, God.
Bobby, I was curious, you guys know each other as well, but you're running you're running some kids, less of an academy, Bobby, and you're not sending kids to college out of your academy in the same way because you're more in the high school target, right? And Bobby, you're in the Forsyth area. I think Dave's more Buford. I think the park you referred to earlier might have been Buford City Park, if I have that pictured in my head. So I think Dave, you're over closer to me, but even back in the day when Bobby was in that area, being around, you mentioned Dennis Horde, Bobby, you were still out in the White Columns area, so you weren't even over near us anyway. So I don't know how often you guys would have run into each other.
Right.
Yeah, I didn't come over to this side until about 10 years ago. It was 2013 when we started. We came over, and like I said, I don't want to say with who, because I a strong feeling it might be the father of the problem child, but he's heavily involved in tennis and had a daughter who was very successful. But we came over. We're close. I mean, as far west as we are, or far east, we're real close. We borderline Buford. But yeah, we have a little bit different. We tried. We did a little high performance. I just didn't have the patience for the parents, and it's unfortunate. And one thing I wanted to ask about, because you brought up a good, the way we speak, and and I find, and going back to what you said earlier as well, Dave, about we have to be so careful that, Shaun, I don't get light around the parents very often. If they see me on the court, they'll get my sarcasm. But when, we have a conversation, it's, they're going to get my good vocabulary. They're going to find out I have a master's degree, and they're going to find out that, we'll have an adult, and that's what your kids are going to get, because I want them to see what they're getting, because it is so hard. I mean, we live in, ESPN is crippled sports. And I always laugh about what you said as well, Dave. The idea that tennis can be, you can't come out of the locker room and win the first quarter and win a tennis match. You can in football. You can win the first quarter and hold on. Tennis, you'll be dead, especially in a 3 out of 5 set match. So this whole idea, and you wonder, and nobody talks about it because it's taboo. What is the long-term effect? When did we ever have mental health issues when we were playing?
We had never. We just didn't tell anybody.
Well, but I don't think we needed the constant affirmation. No. We knew we lost. Like I said, people talk about when my last match, I lost. But you know what? It was a heck of a journey. I was trying to come back because I didn't play. And, I did everything I could. And, I put the racket down and felt good about it. It wasn't I was angry. Somebody beat me who deserved to beat me, but I had done a lot to get to that spot. And I was proud of myself. And it was the work that I would use further in my life. Today, I agree with you. I get so nervous when I see these kids all pumped up. I'm like, guys, it's a point. You just won a point. You can lose more points in tennis and win the match. Don't get preoccupied about a point.
That's right. Yeah, it's that constant, immediate gratification, and I tell my kids all the time, even some of my intermediate kids, I say, listen, if we're in a group of 6 or 8 kids, and you hear me tell somebody good shot, good stroke, things like that, if you don't hear me say that to you, it's not because I don't like you, it's because I've given you some direction, and I'm waiting on you to tap into that and head in that direction. And when you do that, I'll tell you, good shot, but keep working at it. And because I don't tell somebody great shot too often, because great shots, I don't use that phrase for somebody who hits a, beginner stroke. I'll just say, hey, good shot, keep going, work at it. But they want somebody to say, oh, great shot, because it's an ESPN moment. I'm like, no, you ain't getting that one. But that's where we are, kind of the same thing,
Yeah, and unfortunately, I do feel like it permeates into, they're all filled with a bunch of trigger words. And it's like, guys, you're reading the wrong subtitles, man. Stay away. You're not making your life. Like you said, I try to make my kids, my father was great. He gave me 2 choices, gave me the feeling that I had a choice, that I was making a decision, even though he controlled all the variables. It's kind of what you try to do as a coach with your kids when you have them. Yeah, you might think you have a choice here, but I'm controlling all the variables that go into that choice. So, and relish that, because, guys, this is as easy as life gets.
You got it. That's exactly right.
Like I said earlier about the children's sporting event. Guys, this is kids playing a game. And if you're threatening to go to your car because you're angry enough to decide you need to be armed, yes, we're in Georgia. I get it. Okay. That's not what I'm talking about. This is just a children's sporting event. When the official asks you to politely to come sit down, just do it. It's not that hard. We're all here for the kids. And that's one of the things we do with Gotennis and with the podcast, Dave, is we're here for the kids. We're here for the players. And one of the things we want to do is help everybody with that. And with you coming out saying, hey, guys, maybe we need to make some changes. Is the change really that we need to start blacklisting parents? Is it getting that bad? In soccer game, you can yell and scream and yell at your kid, kick that guy in the ass. Like you can do that. And the other parents are going to look at you funny, but nobody's going to ask you to back away from the sideline because what's the difference in tennis that we can hardly clap anymore? What's going on there?
Well, I think, I talked about this, the other day is that, you have to be careful that, what I loved about the game of tennis growing up playing football, baseball, basketball, and then I picked up tennis and there were no lessons where I was at. My mom wanted some exercise. We went out and bopped the ball around, how everybody does when you first start. And after about 6 months, because I was a decent athlete because of all the other sports, she looked at me and went, you need to go find some kids to play with because you're just too fast. You're getting just too many balls, and I ain't got that kind of exercise. And so I said, okay, no problem. And I'll still hit with her. But I think the thing that I loved about the game of tennis is that if me and Shaun are playing, it's me, my game, my strokes at that moment against what Shaun has to offer. And I got to figure those problems out. And I don't need to worry about other outside interferences like coaching and all that stuff because that's what tennis doesn't bring to the table. That's the beauty of the game of the sport of tennis. And I'm afraid, I laugh now because, your coaching is supposed to be when you're on that side of the court. Oh, give me a break. They're hollering 400 yards away. Hey, go to the net. Different languages. Here we go again. You give people a little bit of a little wiggle room to coach now because we think it's better. Now we're going to just take it and you can be anywhere in the stadium and holler. Well, then the fans think they can do that too. Well, now you got people hollering when they're throwing the ball up to serve. And that's why I got into tennis was because I could actually concentrate on me, Shaun, our strokes, what we got to do to get a win. Now I got to block out everybody else that's in the room too. And you did that anyway, but it's getting harder because we're letting more people holler, which is symptomatic of other sports, not what the gentleman's game was about.
So in that case, we've been doing this for thousands of years and therefore we should keep doing it? Or do we need to make the switch from the generation before to what Tiafo says? I'll just use him as an example most recently. He says, let the people walk like a basketball game. Let the people walk around, let them scream. If you can't handle it, go into your crying closet and have your space, have your safe space. But out here, we need to have it a little less mano-a-mano and a little more yelling and screaming. And he wants that interaction. But then I just think back to Happy Gilmore and go, okay, are you really just screwing up the sport or are we just old for worrying about the evolution into the next thing?
I don't have a problem with the evolution into the next thing. Like I said, I don't think everybody is meant to play tennis. You get all these other, people, all these organizations trying to get more people to play tennis. And what you want to look, you can check this when you leave. Go look and see how many senior tournaments you see now. What's happened, and I told this guy, he was on the committee for senior tournaments. This has got to be probably 25 years ago when I was in the 90s and I was playing my national tournaments. I was ranked 1 or 2 or 3 in the nation in my age category, the 30s. And my sponsor wanted me to play a local tournament in Marietta, over on the other side of Marietta. I lived over in Lithonia, so that's an hour and 20-minute drive, easy, with no traffic. And I said, you got to be kidding me. I'm going to walk over there, probably lose 4 games the whole tournament, 3 rounds. I'll probably be seeded, no problem, la, la, la. I did. And I talked to the guy, the second round person I had, and I said, why is it we got to play one match a day. I'm in the 30s division. I'm not 50 or 60. I'm in the 30s. Why are we playing one match a day? Well, people can't play 2 matches a day. And I said, go play something else. If you tell me a competitor that I need to play, if we got a 16 draw and I'm going to play 1 match on Friday night, 2 matches Saturday, and the finals on Sunday, I will get prepared to play that. Now, if I decide I want to enter more events, if there's doubles and things like that, that's my choice. I'm not going to get in the way of somebody else that doesn't want to do it by, making them conform to me. I want to play, if I play singles only, this is what I want to do, and I don't mind playing 2 a day. But don't make me take off work 2 days, and that's what I had to do. Monday, Tuesday, it was a Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday tournament. I got a bye on Saturday. I played 1 match Sunday, won it in like 40 minutes. I drove 2.5 hours to play a 35-minute match. And all of a sudden, from that year, that year, back then, we were having a senior tournament somewhere in the state of Georgia every weekend from literally probably 3rd weekend in March. Those tournaments in March would be down like in Savannah, South Georgia, things like that for weather. And then in April, they would start everywhere. I mean, it was crazy. You could find a senior tournament, usually with, I'd say at least 12 to 16 or sometimes even a 32 draw. And you could find one every weekend all the way through probably the end of October. I looked last year in Georgia. I think there were 10 senior tournaments the whole year.
I found 1 in May this year.
That's what I'm saying. So
I'm not
what
saying I
is
did
that?
an exhaustive search, but I'm with you that there aren't that many.
Because what's happened is they're running the people out because they can't take off work.
Nobody wants to play you.
Well,
They're going to play you.
I'm not
We got
playing
you
either.
and Hugh Thompson. Nobody wants to play you guys.
Sure they do. We'll have fun. But that's that's the saddest part is we've literally eliminated the senior events in lieu of what?
Pickleball.
And now and I'm sure pickleball has a draw to that. But that's so what? So did we miss that boat? Did we create that by eliminating senior tournaments? You're not gonna stop some of the people because pickleball it's on fire, but it's gonna moderate just like everything does, stock market and everything. But where do senior tournaments go? Because I remember when I played the 30 national grass courts in Santa Barbara one year, the tournament director was like 85 years old. Van Zerbe was his name. And we're sitting there one day at one rain delay we had in like 4 years. And I looked at Mrs. Zerbe and I told him how to fix it. I said, I'm from Atlanta. We have rain delays all the time. We just schedule. He's like, oh my God, that's awesome. So I said, Mrs. Zerbe, you still playing tournaments? He goes, yeah. He goes, I think I'm going to win one next year. I said, why's that? He goes, because I think my biggest competitor's going to pass away. And I was like, whoa, you kidding me? He goes, hey, if you can outlive them, you can beat them. I was like, oh, Mr. Zerbe, you're so mean. But part of longevity is at the end of the rainbow, you might win some gold balls. Who knows? But it was interesting to know that there were people still playing at 80 years old in national tournaments. I think he said his draw was 12. And I was like, that has got to be the biggest reward you could ever have. Forget all the titles and just think if you're playing at 80, how awesome that would be. That's like a trophy in itself.
And in that case, I can see why you'd want everything to be quiet. But in today's world, are we just kind of stifling the parents? Are we pushing back so much, like the cat that wants the door open? He doesn't actually want to come in. He just wants the door open. Do we give a little bit with the parents thing? Why tennis?
Well, I think I will have to say this from a physics standpoint. Oh, you like that one. I knew you'd like that one. From a physics standpoint, we as tennis players do rely on the sound of the ball more than other sports. Yeah. Football, you're throwing it. You see it. That's all you see. You can have all the hollering you want. That's why in baseball, a foul ball is not a fair ball is not called. It's like tennis. A fair ball, the referee points in toward the inside the baseline. He doesn't holler anything. He only hollers on a foul ball. and it's because of crowd noise. So my point is that I can tell you now, if Shaun Boyce hits a serve, I don't care how hard it is, say 110 miles, 15, 20 miles an hour, that sound is to me before the ball is. And I rely on that sound to be able to respond. I know how you hit it. I hear it. People don't give that any credit, but it's huge when you're playing to be able to hear the ball. So I'm not saying we need to stop it. Maybe I need to wear my AirPods and just put on, noise reduction from the crowd. I don't know,
Well, and I see the players now with the headphones as they come on, trying to stay in their own world, trying to block it all out. And I really appreciate one of the things you did for us was teaching us how to handle that pressure. And one of the things I mention a lot is the things that tennis does, being an individual sport, not the team sport in the same way where you just kind of follow the crowd and everybody else, but an individual, the 10-year-old that walks through, excuse me. Hi, I'm Shaun. I need to check in for my tennis match. I think that's awesome. And I say that a lot, but I really do think that's really cool. But now there's so much, I struggle with that. Instead of battling my way through the parents to get to the check-in, I'm closing myself off because I'm afraid of everything. Right. And I think that's an interesting combination coming from like a guy with Tiafoe, who's a basketball guy. So he's used to that kind of thing.
Absolutely.
And maybe he likes that idea. I just don't think it's going to spread in the same way where we do have, we mentioned the safe spaces and the mental health challenges. Well, a lot of these people really maybe play tennis because it is a quiet, sometimes inwardly focused.
Absolutely.
Sport.
100%. I think that's why I like it. You got to don't forget now, I did play college basketball. So I totally understand the crowd noise. The one thing about college basketball is you also feel, here we go again, Shaun, you also feel the ball when it's being dribbled on the floor, not just with hearing it, but you feel it through your feet if you're attuned to what you're doing. And so me knowing where the ball is not only a listening thing, it's a feeling thing with the floor itself. Tennis, you don't get to feel it with the ball on the asphalt, but you do hear it. And that sound, we know when a ball is hit not clean. We know when I hear a mishit ball, I'm moving forward because it's usually going to be up there near the net somewhere. Whereas if the crowd is hollering, that's a lost opportunity. And I don't think, your lay person who pays, I ain't doing it, hundreds of dollars to sit and watch a match and holler. I don't think they understand how much they're impacting the game by hollering. They think it's, I'm cheering, but you're deafening the sound of what I need to know. And that is the sound of that ball, clean or not. And, you hit a ball, I'm watching these guys hit 109-mile-an-hour forehands. You think I don't want to hear the sound of that ball coming off? I know I ain't got a chance, but I got less of a chance if I don't hear that sound,
That makes a lot of sense. I like that a lot. Bobby, you got anything else for Dave before I give him the king of tennis question?
No, I love it. I always say the same thing, Dave. I use all of my senses when I play. I tell when it's too humid outside, so yeah, I mean, it's just Maslow's hierarchy. But it goes back to another conversation another day. I love what you've opened up. I think tennis, in its quest to become more popular, sacrificed a lot of what made it great. And, it's that fine line. And Mark Cuban, when you watch Shark Tank, everybody always goes in there, well, if we make this check and we make it more accessible to the masses. And Mark Cuban one time said, why would you want to do that? Keep it high priced and, people will pay. You won't have the same, but there's a lot of truth to that. It's okay to say the pros are doing it at a completely different level. You're a recreational player. Enjoy what they're doing, but, do what you can do and don't try to aspire, especially in today's world. These kids are bigger, faster, stronger. There's never been a greater distance between what's going on television and what's going on in the park. Revel it.
Absolutely.
Celebrate it. Don't sit there and say what's wrong. I remember I gave a tennis etiquette class at Wycombe's one day, and they said, "What is that?" I said, "What are you kidding me?" I said, "That's part." And I'm the other extreme. I'm a poor kid whose dad was a longshoreman. I got into tennis because it was close to boxing. My coach was able to convinced my dad, well, it's boxing and he won't get beat up. And I was small. So my dad was like, all right, I like the idea. I mean, we went to the club would let us play. We weren't allowed to turn on the TV. There was backgammon and there was chess. If you wanted, while you were waiting for a court, you were doing something because you had to realize that you weren't winning a match with your pawn. And, you know, it drives me crazy today when I see kids rifle and return of serves on faults. It's like, put it into the net. Somebody is going to get hurt. But we gave it up. We gave away all the – I think you can make it exciting. You know, Jimmy Connors was a pump-up guy. But like you said, watch Connors. Connors never got pumped in the first set. He got pumped when he was about to – the noose was almost firmly on the guy's neck.
That's right. That's right.
He knew when it was ending. He was getting real close to the ending point when he got there. That's why I said it's so hard today because there is no ebb and flow to these matches because it's so all over the place.
Right. Absolutely. 110%. Yeah. I mean, you didn't have to tell me when there was a swing point coming up. You could tell by the motivation to, do my thing right there, clean, effective. 1, 2, 3, you're gone, bro. You're gone. Yeah. And I'm going to step on you. I'm going to give you about 5 or 6 points in a row to let you know this ain't yours. And then I'm going to run away and I'm never going to look back. But now it's like every point, like I said, I'm sitting here watching Mo and Isner and they're in the fourth set and, they're close sets, but you just got to wonder, how does that wear and tear on you? Because it does. It would me.
Yeah, I don't think any of us, the lay people, are. I guess we're kind of in between the lay people. We're considered insiders, right? So we're the insiders in between the professionals and the lay people. But we don't want to have to do 3 out of 5. That just doesn't sound good. Two matches in a day. Hopefully we can still pull off, but I think the typical player doesn't want to. So Dave, I will finish us off. And I've got a question that is fun for me to ask because I think I should be able to predict this simply because I've known you a long time as to where you'll go with this. But what I've realized is I can't. And predicting the future is hard. But in this case, we want to go with my favorite question, which is the king of tennis question, which is if you are king of tennis, and this is for either Atlanta, the United States, the whole world, the universe, for a day, however long it takes, any version of King of Tennis for any extent.
Yeah.
I'll crop that out. For any size, any version that you picture, is there anything you would do or change? We've talked about some of the USTA tournaments and some of the things we might like to see, but if you had that magic button or that magic wand or just being king to say, this is what we're going to do, anything you would do or change in the world of tennis?
Well, it's kind of like we hash back and forth, about old school versus new school, which is traditional versus, I call it basketball mentality, around the tennis court. It's very hard to go in between those. You're either going to get the crowd totally involved and that minimizes the player's effectiveness of what he hears and puts it all on what he sees. And, I will have to say my eyesight at 20, 30, 40 years old was, I don't know what the best is, but it was 20/20 plus some. I mean, I could see things that, I could see 6, 7 courts away, scoreboards, and people are like, how do you know the score? And I go, well, number one, I'm watching the match. Number two, I'm kind of can see that far. But, I don't know if there's an in-between phase that we're in it already, whether we like it or not. We're in it. I don't know what the governing bodies are going to want to do because that's going to start appealing to a different segment, not necessarily a different segment of the population, but just a different mentality of a population. And I don't know if that's what tennis was really started for, invented for. I don't know what you want to call it. But I like the old school, one-on-one. That's why I got into tennis. I play team sports. I love team sports, but I didn't like, one of my favorite movies, Searching for Bobby Fischer. Bobby Fischer, well, actually the kid's name was Josh Waitzkin. he actually didn't like the side of Bobby Fischer where he was vindictive toward his opponent or hate his opponent. Contempt. That's right. That's right. I'm glad you brought that quote. That was the exact word.
I don't have that. Yeah.
And I did, my brother said at one time that the part of me that he did not like was that the part that if me and Shaun are playing, and you know me well enough, if you're serving and I'm hitting you the balls, I'm going to get that ball, those extra balls near you so you ain't got to walk nowhere. And then all of a sudden you turn around and when it's my turn to serve, you're hitting them one in one corner, one in the other. I had this side of me, my brother saw it a lot, to where I would go into like my dad's first sergeant kill mode. And it was a motivator. And he said that the thing he did not like about me was the fact that I had that side of me to find something I did not like in my opponent, and I would seize on that to motivate me to kill. And that put me in an area of mental and, physical awareness to where I went. It's like a shark with red meat in the water. You go. And, we all have that. If that's what we want to do is win, we have something that we can use to trigger it. And that's what I used. But, Josh Waiskin said, I don't have that. And, it was very poignant that I was the same way with baseball. I hated that my right fielder sucked every time he played. The ball would get hit out there, ground ball go right between his legs, and I'm in shortstop, and I can feel that sucker. And I felt so bad for that kid because he was giving it all, but he did not want to put in the time that I put in, to be a shortstop. And I understood it, but I didn't like the feeling that everybody had towards him. And that's part of the reason I got out of team sports is because I was willing to do that work. I was willing to work like a madman to be up there, to be the guy. But I also hated the side of people blaming that kid. I hated it. And that's what drove me to play tennis. And I love tennis for that reason. It is an individual sport. Even when you've got, like in our day, 6 guys on the singles team and 3 doubles teams were made up of those sticks, you still are an individual out there against that other opponent, singles or doubles. And that's the facet I really still enjoy, And to change the hearing part of it, I think would be detrimental to the game itself. I think we somehow need to turn off the propellers for the parents when they come to junior tournaments. I think I hate to say, put a sign up, drop your kid off, let them check in and all that, but it gets done better if they do that. They've all got cell phones at 10, 12 years old already. And so what's the problem, So I would like to see a little more of a traditional game stay in place because I think those are the avenues that I loved about the game of tennis. And to take them away, I think changes the dynamics of the game. And just call it something else if you want to. Here's tennis, and here's a tennis, sub-tennis, or whatever. Tennis, sub-tennis is in a part where you can honk and horn and party and all that. And, it's kind of funny. I heard Zverev talking about several of the players talking about in New York, where it's an open marijuana state. They're smelling marijuana while they're playing. And I'm like, oh, my God, I never thought of that one. But that is true. It's an open state. So you can do it in the park right next door. And, ain't no deciphering where Mother Nature carries that cloud, bro.
Dave, let me interject here. I grew up in New York. I associate going to my first Yankee game. There's always something I associate with a Yankee game. That's a fight and the smell of marijuana. So that was in the 70s. I'd be like, man, we just got here and somebody's already lit up. So now that it's legal, I read the same article you did. I laughed, but I was like, well, that was every sporting event I ever went to in New York. That overwhelming pungent aroma. I was like, wait to get here.
Yeah, that's right.
So in that case, Dave, your king of tennis is not something you would change, but it sounds like it's something you actually wouldn't change. And I can definitely appreciate that to say, hey, let's keep this one-on-one. Let's keep this mano-y-mano. And whatever the phrase is for women, that is mano-y-mano. We'll insert that later, I'm sure. But Dave Matthews, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. And like I said before, we're going to get you back on with the 10 minutes of tennis for the what to do, what to change, something we will get that you have to change is things about your body after 60 years old, because we just did the 40 years old one with Justin Yo. So, Dave, absolutely. I really appreciate it. Bobby, as always, we'll see you guys next time.
I'm waving, guys. Take care.
You too, Bobby. Take care. See you, Shaun.
See you.